My name is Olivia Reynolds, and I'm 35 years old. But before I tell you who I am today, I need to take you back to the moment everything in my life flipped upside down. The moment my own mother suspended me from my job until I begged my younger sister for forgiveness. Yes, you heard that right. Suspended me. 35. Like I was 12. And what did I say? All right. Just that. Simple. My mom thought I was joking. She smirked at me the next morning, acting like she had won some kind of mother-daughter battle. She even held her coffee cup like a queen who had conquered a small kingdom. But the smirk didn't last. Because when she stepped into the office, the company we built together as a family, she froze. My desk was empty. Every picture, every file, every pen. All gone. And then she saw the envelope sitting neatly in the center of the desk. My resignation letter. Before she could even speak, our company lawyer, Mr. Howard, rushed in completely pale. "Tell me you didn't post it," he whispered, almost shaking. My mom's laugh died on the spot. And right there, that moment, that breath in the air, thick with fear, confusion, and shock, that was when everything changed. That was the moment I realized my life was never going to be the same again. But hold on, how did we even get here? Why would my own mother suspend me? Why would a lawyer look like he'd seen a ghost? And what exactly happened between my sister and me? Well, that's where our story begins. Before we dive in, I have to ask, where are you watching from? Canada? The United States? Let me know, because the people in this story feel so real to me that I want to know exactly who is listening as I share this chapter of my life. Let me introduce the key players properly. First, there's me, Olivia. At 35, I'd worked my way up in our family-owned real estate company. I wasn't perfect, but I was responsible, hardworking, and tried to treat everyone with kindness, even on days when life pushed me to my limits. Then there was my mom, Margaret Reynolds, CEO, leader, and a woman who could turn a room silent by simply clearing her throat. She loved us deeply, but she led with authority. Her way of showing love wasn't always gentle. Sometimes it came as sharp words, impossible expectations, or decisions she didn't think through until it was too late. And finally, my younger sister, Emily. Smart, talented, beautiful, and honestly one of the most caring people you would ever meet. But growing up, our personalities clashed. A lot. Not because we hated each other, but because we loved differently. She was emotional and sensitive. I was quiet and strong. She forgave quickly. I held things in for too long. And sometimes that caused storms neither of us knew how to control. Now let's go back to the beginning. Long before the drama, long before the resignation, our family appeared perfect from the outside. We lived in a nice neighborhood, volunteered during Thanksgiving, and hosted Christmas like it was a national event. But inside, things were messy in ways no one ever talks about. Not because we didn't love each other, but because love in real families is complicated. It requires patience, empathy, and kindness, things we sometimes forgot to give. I remember one day, months before everything exploded, Emily called me crying. She had messed up a client project, something small, something fixable. Instead of comforting her, I corrected her too harshly. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I was stressed and tired. "Liv, why are you so cold?" she whispered through tears. I didn't answer. I didn't hug her. I didn't tell her she wasn't alone. I just walked away. And that moment, simple, quiet, was one of our low events. A tiny tear in our relationship. A small pain that would grow into something much bigger later. But another thing about life. Every low point has a high point waiting nearby. A week after that small argument, Emily surprised me with something that melted my heart. A scrapbook she made filled with pictures of us growing up. Childhood photos, little drawings, even old notes we wrote to each other as kids. Her smile was huge when she gave it to me. "I know we fight," she said softly, "but you're still my big sister. And I love you." That moment could have fixed everything. If only I had let it. Instead, I hugged her and thanked her, but deep down, that earlier guilt stayed with me. Quiet, heavy, and waiting for the right moment to explode. And explode it did. Not long after that, a misunderstanding happened. One simple disagreement that spiraled into the biggest argument we ever had. Words were said. Sharp, painful words neither of us truly meant. My mom heard the shouting. She stepped in, furious and disappointed, and to teach me a lesson she thought would help. She suspended me from the company. "Go apologize to your sister," she said. "You aren't coming back until you do." I was 35, a grown woman. And at the time, her decision felt like betrayal. Humiliation. Like she chose my sister's feelings over my years of work. So I said, "All right." But deep inside, something cracked. That was the beginning. And now, after introducing myself, the people in this story, and the small events that led to big emotions, we arrive back at the main event of Chapter 1. The moment my mother stood frozen at my empty desk, my resignation letter sitting like a bomb, and our lawyer begging for the truth. And then, a sudden loud knock echoed from the hallway, sharp enough to make every hair on my mom's arm rise. The sound was urgent. Too urgent. Something or someone was coming. The knock echoed so loudly through the hallway that even Mr. Howard, our usually calm and collected lawyer, jumped. My mother stood frozen, her hand still hovering above my empty desk, her eyes wide, not with anger anymore, but with something closer to fear. Fear of what that knock meant. Fear of what she might have caused. But before I tell you who was behind that door, I need to take you back, just a little bit. Because the truth is, that moment didn't happen out of nowhere. It was built on months of tiny mistakes, quiet hurts, and choices none of us realized were leading us to this storm. Let me take you to the morning before everything blew up. The sun was soft that day, the kind of gentle glow that makes everything look more peaceful than it really is. I woke up early, made myself a cup of peppermint tea, and sat at my kitchen counter staring at my phone. My sister Emily had sent me a message the night before. "Hey Liv. Can we talk tomorrow? Please." Just that. Simple request. But I didn't reply. Not because I didn't care, but because I didn't know how to talk to her without feeling like everything I said came out wrong. It was like speaking two different languages even though we grew up in the same house. Instead of texting back, I put my phone down and whispered into the empty room. Maybe later. Later never came. When I arrived at work that morning, the office felt heavy. People kept whispering as if they already knew something was wrong. As if they could sense that the Reynolds sisters had fallen apart again. And this time the crack was deeper. Mom called me into her office right away. She didn't yell. She didn't scold. Instead, she gave me a look that felt like it sliced through every layer of pride I had left. "Olivia," she said, "you need to fix things with your sister. The tension is affecting the company." I stared at her. "Mom, Emily and I just need some space." "You've had space," she snapped. "Too much of it." Then she said the words that changed everything. "Until you apologize to your sister, you are suspended." Thought it was a joke. Truly. I even laughed a little. But her expression remained hard, ice cold. "I'm serious," she said. "You will not step foot into this building again until you make things right." The humiliation burned in my chest. I felt like a child being scolded in front of a classroom. "Fine," I said. Just one word. But inside, something locked into place. A decision. A silent promise to myself. I walked out without another word, even though people stared at me as if wondering what punishment I had received. I kept my chin up, but my heart was shaking. When I got home that night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't call anyone. Instead, I opened my laptop and did something even I didn't expect. I typed out my resignation letter. Not to be dramatic. Not out of anger. But because, for the first time in my life, I realized I couldn't spend another day working in a place where my feelings were treated like they didn't matter. Where my mistakes were punished, but my years of loyalty weren't seen. Where my mother used authority to solve emotional problems she didn't want to talk about. When morning came, I woke up early, got dressed, drove to the office and placed the letter on my desk. I cleaned everything out, down to the last paperclip. And then, I walked out. Quiet. Which brings us back to the moment my mom discovered everything. Her smirk disappeared the second she saw that empty desk. Even her breathing changed, slow, shaky, as if she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Mr. Howard appeared seconds later, hair messy, tie crooked, papers in his hand. "Tell me you didn't post it," he whispered. My mother turned to him sharply. "Post what?" Before he could answer, the knock came. 3 times. Vem, vem, vem. The kind of knocking that makes you think something bad is about to happen. Mr. Howard turned pale. My mom whispered, "Who is that?" He didn't answer. But I can tell you this. Whoever was behind that door wasn't coming for a friendly chat. Now, while that moment hangs in the air, let me tell you something important about kindness and why it matters. Because even though my family looks strong from the outside, we struggled with empathy. We struggled with saying "I'm sorry" and "I understand." We chose pride over compassion, silence over honesty. And when people don't talk, misunderstandings grow like weeds. I learned too late that kindness isn't about being soft. It's about being brave enough to understand someone even when you disagree. It's about choosing patience when anger feels easier. It's about giving love even when you feel hurt. If I had shown more empathy to Emily, maybe things wouldn't have gotten so bad. Maybe she wouldn't have cried that night. Maybe our family wouldn't end up standing in an office full of fear and unanswered questions. Mom always taught us to be strong, but she didn't realize that softness is a strength too. And perhaps that's why everything felt like it was falling apart now, because none of us had learned how to listen with our hearts. But let's return to the hallway, where the air felt so tense it could snap. My mom slowly walked toward the door. Mr. Howard reached out. "Ma'am, wait." She ignored him. Another knock came, harder this time. Bam, bam, bam. She placed her hand on the doorknob, twisted it, opened the door. And standing there was someone who should not have been there. Someone whose presence meant something terrible had already begun. My mom gasped. Mr. Howard stepped back. And I guarantee you will never guess what happened next. The extreme event had begun. My mother's breath caught in her throat the moment the door swung open. Standing there, shaking, red-eyed, and holding a folder to her chest like it was the only thing keeping her upright, was Emily, my sister. The last person anyone expected to walk into that office at that moment. Her hair was messy like she'd been running. Her cheeks were blotchy from crying, and her hands trembled so hard the folder looked like it might slip to the floor. Mr. Howard froze. My mother's mouth fell open. Because if Emily was here, looking like that, it meant something had gone terribly wrong. But before we go any further, we have to go back a bit. Back to the moment after I walked out of the office with my resignation plan quietly tucked inside my mind. Because while I was preparing to leave the company, Emily was fighting her own storm. The night before everything blew up, she had come home from work and sat on the edge of her bed, crying so quietly that even her cat tilted its head and climbed onto her lap. Emily was the kind of person who felt things deeply. She forgave easily but hurt easily too. And our argument, our awful, sharp, too loud argument, had left a wound she didn't know how to close. She tried calling me again. I didn't answer. She typed a message. She deleted it. She tried again. Deleted again. Finally, she pressed record on her phone and whispered a voice message. "Liv. Sorry. I didn't mean anything I said. I just wanted you to listen. I just wanted you to see me. Please, can we just talk?" She never sent it. Instead, she deleted it and curled up on her bed, hugging her knees. 'Cause she was scared. And when people are scared, they either shout or they go silent. And Emily, she went silent. The next morning when she didn't see me at work, she panicked. She asked around. Someone told her I had visited early. Someone else told her my desk looked empty. And when she saw the resignation letter still sealed on my desk, her entire world cracked open. But she didn't open it. She was too afraid to see the truth. Instead, she grabbed the folder she was holding now and rushed to find our mother and Mr. Howard before something irreversible happened. Which brings us back to the hallway. The air was thick enough to choke on. My mother tried to speak, but no sound came out. "Emily," she finally whispered. Emily stepped inside, her voice trembling. "Mom, we need to talk. Now." She held out the folder with shaking fingers. "What is that?" Mr. Howard asked. Emily looked at him, then at Mom, then down at the folder as if it weighed more than she could handle. "It's about Olivia." My mother stiffened. "What about her?" Emily swallowed hard. "About what's going to happen if she really leaves." Mr. Howard turned even paler. And that was the cliffhanger that hung over the room like a storm cloud. But while the tension builds, let me explain something deeper. Something about empathy, because this story is not just family drama. It's about understanding the people we love before they break. Growing up, I always thought strength meant holding things in. Not crying. Not complaining. Not asking for help. But Emily, she believed strength meant sharing your feelings. Being open. Being vulnerable even when it hurt. We never met in the middle. And that gap between us kept widening as we grew older. Mom tried to raise us to be independent, but somewhere along the way, she forgot that independence doesn't mean isolation. It doesn't mean silence. It doesn't mean pretending everything is fine when it isn't. Emily needed understanding. I needed patience. Mom needed communication. And we all needed kindness. Because kindness is the glue that holds relationships together. Especially when life is messy. But we were learning that too late. Back in the hallway, my mother slowly reached out and touched Emily's arm. "Sweetheart, what's in that folder?" Emily's lips trembled. "It's about the new investor," she whispered. Mr. Howard stepped forward. "The new investor. What about him?" Emily looked down. He only agreed to sign because of Olivia." Mom's heart dropped. "Because of..." "She's the one he trusts," Emily said. Her eyes filled with tears. "He said he only wanted to work with our company if she stayed on the team. If she leaves..." She shook her head. "He's pulling out." My mother's face drained of color. But that wasn't the worst part. Emily continued in a shaky breath. "And that's not all. He didn't just say it. He put it in writing." She opened the folder and pulled out a printed email. An email with the investor's signature at the bottom. My mom whispered, "No, no, no, no." But before she could finish, another voice echoed from behind Emily in the hallway. Deep voice. Familiar voice. "Is it true?" it asked. Everyone turned. Standing there, suit dusty, tie askew, eyes blazing with urgency, was the investor himself. Mr. James Porter. He had arrived unannounced, unexpected, at the worst possible moment. His face was tight, serious, and cold. And he looked like he was not there for a friendly reason. The tension in the room snapped like a wire stretched too thin. My mother whispered, "Mr. Porter, why are you here?" He stepped inside slowly. And then he spoke a sentence that froze every heartbeat in that room. "Because I need to know right now," he said, his voice hard as stone, "whether Olivia Reynolds has actually resigned." My mother went pale. Emily gasped. Mr. Howard closed his eyes like he was praying silently. And just when my mother opened her mouth to answer, Mr. Porter slammed his hand onto the desk. "Because if she has," he said, leaning forward with fire in his eyes, "you're all in very, very big trouble." That moment, his anger, his arrival, his words. Mr. Porter's words didn't just fill the room. They slammed into it, heavy and sharp, like a hammer striking glass. My mother's face lost every hint of color. Emily took a small step back, clutching that folder so tightly the edges bent. Mr. Howard pressed a hand to his forehead like he suddenly had the worst headache of his life. But Mr. Porter wasn't done. His voice was cold, controlled. But underneath it was a storm that made the entire office feel like the air itself was trembling. "I asked a simple question," he said. "Has Olivia resigned?" Nobody answered. Nobody could. Because at that moment, answering felt like putting a key into a lock that would open a door none of them could close again. Before I take you deeper into what happened next, I need to take you back, into the days leading up to this crisis. The things nobody knew. The things even I didn't realize would matter until everything crashed down. Because while my family was busy arguing, hurting, misunderstanding, and suspending each other, someone else was watching. Mr. Porter, our newest investor. A man known for being incredibly smart, painfully observant, and extremely particular about who he trusted in business. He wasn't cruel, but he had high expectations. The kind of man who notices when someone stays late to finish a project. The kind of man who pays attention when someone speaks with honesty instead of trying to impress him. And for reasons I never fully understood, that person had been me. Months before my resignation letter landed on that desk, Mr. Porter had pulled me aside after a board meeting. "Olivia," he said, "you're the kind of leader who doesn't hide behind fancy words. I like that." I blinked at him, unsure whether it was a compliment or a warning. He continued, "You have a rare kind of integrity. If I invest in this company, I want you involved in every major project. Non-negotiable." At the time, I nodded politely, not truly understanding the weight of those words. But now, standing in my mother's office, those words were turning into a hurricane. Let's return to the present. Mr. Porter stepped closer to my mother, each step slow and deliberate, like he wanted her to feel every ounce of his disappointment. "I came here early this morning," he said, "because I was told Olivia wasn't in. That alone concerned me. But then," he pointed at my empty desk, "I saw that. And then I hear rumors that she was suspended." He turned sharply to Mr. Howard. "Suspended? By her own mother?" Mr. Howard raised both hands helplessly. "Sir, No," Mr. Porter cut him off. "I don't want excuses. I want answers." Emily's voice shook as she tried to speak. "Mr. Porter, it's complicated." He faced her, his eyes softer but still intense. "I'm sure it is. But this isn't just about family drama. This is about a business agreement. A very large one." He held up a folder of his own, the official investment documents. "My contract makes one thing very clear. I only stay if Olivia Reynolds remains in this company in her current leadership role." My mother whispered, "We can fix this." "Can you?" he said sharply. The room froze. "I don't like games, Margaret," he said. "I respect you. I respect your company. But if Olivia is gone, if she really handed in a resignation, then I'm walking. Today." Emily's breath hitched. "But that will." "Yes," he said flatly. "It will destroy the expansion deal. It will freeze your upcoming projects. And it will put your entire company under review." My mother shook her head, taking a shaky step forward. "Please, Mr. Porter, listen." "No," he said again. "I've been patient. Too patient. I watched your daughters fight. I watched you ignore it. I watched this company pretend everything was fine when it was falling apart from the inside." Then his jaw tightened. "But suspending your own daughter, the one person holding the project together, that was reckless." My mother's lip trembled. For the first time in a long time, Margaret Reynolds looked small. She whispered, "I only wanted her to apologize." Mr. Porter's voice softened just a little. "And did you ever stop to think," he asked, "that maybe she wasn't the only one who needed to?" That sentence landed like a punch to the heart. 'Cause it was true. My mom looked at Emily. Emily looked at the floor. And suddenly, their anger didn't matter as much as the trail of hurt behind it. But before any of them could speak, something unexpected happened. Crash. Loud one. Somewhere down the hallway something or someone hit the floor. Hard. Everyone jumped. Mr. Howard ran to the doorway. What was that? But before anyone could investigate, a voice cried out. "Help!" A woman's voice. Panic. Terrified. Emily gasped. That sounded like. And suddenly the building erupted into noise. Footsteps rushing, people shouting, phones ringing. Something was happening. Something big. My mother sprinted out of her office, followed by Emily and Mr. Howard. Even Mr. Porter, despite his anger, hurried after them. Down the hallway, near the staircase, employees were gathered in a tight circle, speaking urgently. When the crowd finally parted, the sight nearly knocked the breath from everyone's lungs. There on the floor, eyes closed and body trembling, was my sister, Emily. She had collapsed. My mother screamed her name and ran toward her, dropping to her knees. "Oh my God, Emily. Sweetheart, look at me. Emily." Mr. Porter knelt down beside her, checking her pulse. "She's breathing, but her body is shaking. We need help." Mr. Howard shouted for paramedics. Employees scattered. My mother held Emily's face. "Baby, stay with me. Stay with me." Emily's eyes fluttered open for half a second, and she whispered one word. "Olivia." Then she went limp again. My mother let out a broken sob, one that came from every regret she had been carrying but refused to admit. The entire hallway descended into chaos. That moment, Emily collapsing. The moment Emily's eyes rolled back and her body went limp, the world around her exploded into panic. People shouted. Phones rang. Footsteps echoed across the hall as employees ran in different directions, calling for help. My mother held onto her tightly, her hands shaking so badly she could barely keep her grip. "Emily! Sweetheart, stay with me. Please stay with me," she cried, brushing hair away from my sister's forehead. Mr. Porter crouched beside them, his face tight with concern. "Her pulse is weak. We need paramedics now." Mr. Howard was already on his phone. Yes. 4th floor. Send someone immediately." The hallway felt colder than ever. The lights felt too bright. And the sound, people whispering, crying, gasping, felt like a huge wave crashing over everyone. But before I tell you what happened next, before I show you the result of this terrifying moment, I need to take you backward for the final time. Back to the part of the story no one saw. Back to the moments that built the world inside Emily's heart until it became too heavy, and finally cracked. Because my sister didn't collapse out of nowhere. She had been holding in pain for weeks. Pain she was too scared to voice. Pain she tried to hide with smiles and jokes and small acts of kindness. And the worst part, I didn't notice. My mother didn't notice. Nobody noticed. Until her body forced us to. The night before everything fell apart, the night I didn't answer her calls, Emily sat on the floor of her apartment with her hands over her face. She had been working on a report for the new investor, trying so hard to fix the tension in the company. She had been staying up late for days, waking up early, skipping meals, drinking too much coffee, and crying silently when she thought no one could hear. Because she felt responsible. Responsible for our fight. Responsible for my suspension. Responsible for the company's upcoming deal. Responsible for making everyone happy at the same time. But Emily was just one person. And no one, not even the strongest person in the world, can hold that much weight without breaking. When she heard I had cleared out my desk that morning, she panicked. Her chest tightened. Her breathing sped up. Her hands shook. She rushed through traffic to reach the company, dangerously fast, because she thought she still had time to fix everything. But stress is a silent thief. Steals from you without warning. Which brings us back to the moment she collapsed, right when she whispered my name. Olivia! It was her last thought before everything went dark. Back in the hallway, employees made room as the paramedics stormed in with their equipment. "Clear the space," one shouted. My mother stepped back, her hands over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. "Please save my baby, please." Emily was lifted onto a stretcher. Her eyelids twitched. Her breathing was shallow. The paramedics checked her oxygen, her heartbeat, her vitals. "She's dehydrated," one said. "Severely. Pulse is unstable. We need to get her to the hospital immediately." Mr. Porter stepped forward. "Which hospital?" "I'll follow." But then, something unexpected happened. Something that made everyone freeze. Emily's eyes flickered open. Just a little. Barely. And she whispered one fragile sentence. "Don't let Olivia leave." Then her eyes sank shut again as the paramedics rushed her toward the elevator. My mother staggered backward, grabbing the wall to steady herself. Her face crumbled into grief, guilt, and fear all at once. That one sentence from Emily. It shattered her. "She doesn't want her sister to leave," Mr. Porter said quietly. "She's terrified of losing her." My mom pressed her hand over her heart. "What have I done?" Mr. Howard said nothing. He simply placed a hand on her shoulder. And then something happened that no one expected. Margaret Reynolds, the strict CO, the woman who never bent, never cried, never apologized first, collapsed into a chair and covered her face. "I just wanted them to fix things. I didn't want this. I didn't want any of this," she whispered through tears. Mr. Porter knelt in front of her, not as an investor but as a human being. "Then fix it, Margaret," he said softly. "Not with rules. Not with punishments. With love." My mother looked up, eyes red and full of regret. "How?" she whispered. "You tell Olivia the truth," he said. "Everything. Every mistake. Every feeling. Every apology you never gave her. And you do it before this gets worse." My mother wiped her tears with her sleeve. "But I don't even know where she is." Mr. Porter looked her straight in the eye. "Yes, you do. And here's the truth." She did know. Because there was only one place I ever went when I needed to think. One place I always chose when the world felt too loud, too heavy, too complicated. The rooftop. The quiet corner overlooking the city. The place where I used to go as a teenager when life pulled me in too many directions. The place where no one could see me cry. My mother stood up suddenly, like the realization hit her all at once. "Oh my God," she whispered. "She's upstairs." And just like that she ran. Down the hall. Past the elevator. Toward the stairs. Her footsteps echoed through the building, fueled by fear, love, regret, and something else. Something she had not felt in years. Desperation. She reached the rooftop door, pushed it open, and stepped into the cool wind. There I was. Standing with my back to her. Looking out over the city. My resignation letter already posted. My heart hurting in ways I didn't know how to explain. She took one step toward me. Then another. But before she reached me, her voice cracked. "Olivia!" Turned slowly. Her eyes were overflowing. And for the first time in my entire adult life, my mother didn't look like the CEO of Reynolds Realty. She looked like a mother. A mother who was scared. A mother who was sorry. A mother who finally understood the damage her silence had caused. "Olivia," she breathed again, her voice trembling. "Please, don't walk away. Not now. Not like this." I didn't answer. Couldn't. Because for years she told me to be strong. And for years I listened. But she never asked if I was tired of being strong. She took one more step, her voice breaking. Emily collapsed. My heart stopped. "She's at the hospital," my mother whispered. "She asked for you. She needs you. No. I need you too." The wind blew softly, lifting loose strands of her hair. She dropped to her knees. "Please forgive me, Olivia," she cried. "I'm begging you." And just as I opened my mouth to respond, the rooftop door slammed open again. It wasn't Mr. Howard. It wasn't Mr. Porter. It wasn't a secretary or a security guard. It was someone else. Someone who had been looking for me. Someone whose arrival would change everything. Because standing in that doorway, breathless, sweaty, eyes full of fear, was my father. He hadn't been in the picture for years. But now he stood there like a ghost walking back into the world he left behind. "Olivia," he said, voice cracking. "We need to talk. Now." His sudden appearance. His timing. His urgency. This was the final extreme event of the story. And with that, hope you enjoy the story. Please like and subscribe to my channel.